In this challenge review, we're going to take a look at how to solve the You Have Been Named challenge. The first thing I need to do is I need to create a list of names. We know that a name is going to be a string. So here I can basically say public list of type string, and we'll call it, let's say, names equals a new list of strings, and we'll initialize it. From here, you can see here that we are using system.collections.generic, which gives us the ability to type lists. If I comment this out, it wouldn't work. And you'll see there's errors. But if I add it back in, we're okay. So let's go ahead and define these names. If I go into my game manager here, and let's recompile, we're going to add 5 names. So here, let's add 5 names, days 0 through 4. So we're going to say John, James, Jessica, we'll say Jeremy, and Jacob. Can you guess my favorite letter is J? We'll save our scene. Let's just call it main. And from here, what I need to do now is, when I hit the space key, remove a random element from the list and reprint the names. But first, create a list of names and print out each one. So in void start, we need to print them all out. Now, once again, this is advanced. You should be familiar with loops. It doesn't make sense for me to print out each name like this, debug.log, names, element 0, and so forth, right? Doesn't make sense to do that. What I'm gonna do is use a for each loop. I'm gonna say basically for each name in the names list, so var name, in names, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say debug.log, and we're just gonna print out name. This should print out every single name in the list. If I run this, you'll see here in void start, it's gonna print out John, James, Jessica, Jeremy, and Jacob. And here we go. John, James, Jessica, Jeremy, and Jacob. So let's move on to the next part. Here, when I hit the space key, I need to remove a random element from the list and reprint the names. So we're checking for input, so we know we're gonna use update, and we're gonna say here, if I hit the space key using input.getKey, key down, and we're gonna say keycode.space. From there, what we need to do is remove a random element. So to remove an element from a list, I say names.remove, and you'll see here I can remove a string item, and it's saying remove one of the names. Who do I want to remove? I want to remove a random element. So I'm going to say random.range. I have 5 names, which means the random range is going to be between 0 and 5. And that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Numbers start at 0. The problem with this is, what if I had 50,000 names and I want to do the same thing? I can use the length of this string. Now for arrays, it has a fixed length. With lists, they're dynamic, which means we use what's called count. So here we say names.remove, random.range 0, and we're going to say names.count. If I tried to use names.length to get how many elements are in the list, it doesn't exist. Lists use the count field, and you'll see here our property. And within that, I initialize it like this, just like a method. Oh, I'm sorry, I do not. It's a property. You just type names.count. And then we semicolon this off. So here it looks like it's giving us a little bit of an error here, and it says class for generating random data, class unityengine.random. And what we're seeing here looks like a conflict. And it says here cannot convert from int to string. So names.count should be names.count, and that is correct. That's the name of the list. I'm going to initialize it. It doesn't like that. I think this is a false error. I'm just going to let Unity compile here. Let's take a closer look here. Oh, and the reason is because I'm trying to remove a random index just out of the blue. I need to access what element I want to remove. So I need to access an element such as names, and then within here, I can pass in the int index. So if I want to access the third element, I would say remove names element 3, and that's going to then remove that element 3. So within this index bracket, these square brackets, I'm going to put my random.range code. So within here, I'm going to say between element 0 and however many elements we have in our list. So I'm going to say names.count, and that's the property. So let's go ahead here, take a look here. I'm going to close that off with a parenthesis, and we should be okay. Names.remove. And we're missing a parenthesis inside. Here we go. Okay. If we save this and I hit the space key, you'll see here that it prints out all the names. I'm going to clear it. If I hit the space key and we watch in the inspector, it removed one. The list is now 4. If I hit space again, it's removing a random element every single time. So you'll see here, if I hit it again, now they're all gone. So what does that mean? What do we need to do now? We want to also print out. This remove here is allowing us to pass in a name, and we can remove the index basically from our list. So here, what we're going to do now is we need to then reprint the names. So here I said if input.get key down space, I said names.remove. Let's now reprint the names. I can just copy this for each loop, and I can paste it right here. If we run this, every time we remove a name, it's then going to print out, hey, it's going to print out the remaining names. If I wanted to signify to the user which name got removed, we can do that as well. So here I'm going to hit space. You'll see it reprints. I'm going to clear, hit space, reprints. Let's say I just wanted to know which name got removed. Well, if I want to do that, let's go ahead here. We're going to say names remove name. And before we remove the name, I need to basically know who it is we're removing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a temp variable just called var. It's just a temp variable that only lives within the scope of this if statement. And I'm going to say var name to remove. And I'm going to set it equal to names, and I'm going to pick a random name. So names, and we'll say random.range. We'll say between 0 and names.count. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to remove the name to remove. But at least when I do this, I can say name to remove. And I have a reference now to that name. So here I'm going to say names to remove. And then we're going to say, after we print out, we'll say debug.log. Let's find out who we removed. We removed, and we'll say plus name to remove. And that's going to be a string value. So if we run this now, you'll see here in the game view, we're going to print out everything. And you'll see here we're getting a little warning it's related to the script. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit space. And you're going to see here it prints out, we removed Jeremy, and that is correct. So if we look on the game manager, we have John, James, Jessica, Jacob left. I'm going to clear the console. Let's run it again. It looks like we lost James, and that is correct. So we removed James and printed out the rest. And if I do that 2 more times, you'll see here John and Jessica's left. We just lost Jessica, and it prints out we removed Jessica. All right, so that wraps up this challenge. I'll see you in the next one.